Hi everyone, welcome to Awkward Author. My name's Alyssa Grasso, and this is my weekly vlog and podcast about my sometimes awkward, but always awesome, pretty much always awesome, author life. So I'm recording today's episode a day earlier than I normally would. I normally record on Tuesdays, it's actually Monday, and it's just because, well, it's been a crazy week, and it's promising to be another crazy week. So tomorrow, I just don't think I'm going to have time to do some recording. So I figured, hey, I got some time today. I'll do it today. Tomorrow, got a lot of running around to do. Chiefly, I have to get my car inspected. My car inspection comes up in August. It's almost the end of August. So I do have to get that done. And in Pennsylvania, we don't have inspection stations. Like, you have to take it to a garage to get it inspected. So I usually go to the dealership. It's the dealership where I bought the car, and I get, in Pennsylvania, we have a safety inspection and an emissions inspection, so, but not every county has to have the emissions inspection. It has to do with, like, the altitude differences in the county. Like, I used to live in a county where we weren't required to have emissions tests because there was like a 2,000-foot elevation between like where I lived and say where the lowest part of the county was. So because of that, I guess these machines are very sensitive, and so they don't require it. But unfortunately, I live in a county now where I have to get the emissions as well as the safety inspection. So the emissions I have to pay for, the safety I get free, which is of course the cheaper one. But I figure anyway, if I'm going to the dealership, I do have to have some other work done on my car, so I'm gonna get all of that taken care of. So yeah, it takes a little while, and then, you know, of course, it's not like right around the corner from me, so I'm like, oh, if I'm going all the way up there, I might as well do some other stuff while I'm up there. So yeah, it's gonna be a busy day. That's what's gonna happen there. And I don't know, I don't mean to rant, but the emissions thing is just so ridiculous because, I mean, I'm not saying that emissions shouldn't be tested. They should. Cars should be, shouldn't be polluting and stuff, obviously, except the vehicles that are doing the polluting are exempt from emissions testing. So it's just so ridiculous. Like, if you have an older vehicle, that's spewing all kinds of crap out there, or you have like a diesel truck, you don't have to have emissions testing. So it's like, why are we, requiring like a Mazda CX-5, which has pretty much like no emissions at all anyway, to have this emissions test? I mean, unless I did some like crazy aftermarket thing to my car, there's no reason there should be an emissions problem with my car. And of course, I mean, not to generalize and stereotype, but I'm guessing the people that are driving like Mazda CX-5s are not doing crazy things to their car that are gonna, cause crazy emissions problems, because honestly, it's people like me. Like, we're not racing these things, trust me. But anyway, so it's just like, I don't know. It's bureaucracy at its finest, I guess. But anyway, that's just me ranting, and I do have to get other stuff done on my car, so, it's not completely, pointless. But of course, because it is the inspection thing, I have to get it done before the end of the month, so there is that component to it. But for that reason, I am recording this today, and for that reason, well, not that reason specifically, but just the kind of craziness, I guess, of this past week. I have not done much writing this week. I mean, I've done a little bit, but nothing really to report writing progress-wise. Now, again, I'm recording this a day early. I'm planning on getting a decent amount of writing done today, so I actually, I will get some writing done this week, but, will it be as much as I'd hope? No, probably not. And it's an interesting week for this to happen, because I don't know if you spend any amount of time on Twitter. If you do, I apologize. No, if you do, then you probably saw some writer. I don't even know who it was, and, I'm not gonna amplify this further, but he tweeted something out that ended up going viral, and as these things do, and it was basically like, whenever somebody does something like from their own limited experience and says this is how it is, I mean, obviously that's not the case, but his thing was like, if you're not if you're doing other things instead of writing, if you're focusing on a day job instead of writing, if you're focusing on paying your bills instead of writing, if you're focusing on other things instead of your writing, then you're not a real writer. If you're putting your writing on the back burner to deal with these other things, then you're not a real writer, kind of thing, which of course is, complete and utter BS. I mean, I don't think you need me to say that. And certainly, if you were on Twitter, you saw like this pile on of, other writers saying, this isn't true, and this is why, because, obviously it's not. I mean, you're a writer if you write. That's really all there is to it. And it doesn't mean you have to write every day. It doesn't mean you have to, quit your day job to be a writer. It doesn't mean that you have to write instead of doing things that pay the bills or, take care of your family or take care of, where you live. Obviously, you can actually do all these things. And sometimes it means, like it means for me this week, I'm not getting much writing done because I have to deal with some other things. I have to get my car inspected, I have to help out, other people in, my family or, people that I care for. These are just things that, come up during, the course of living, and you deal with those things. And sometimes that means, you'll spend a week where you aren't doing any writing, or you'll spend, 6 months where you aren't doing any writing. And you're still a writer, believe it or not. Yeah, you are. And it's just, I don't know, it's always interesting when, somebody makes a statement like this, like they're just so stuck in their own limited experience that they can't really see how it could be for someone else, I guess, which is, it seems like an essential skill for a writer. If you were on Twitter maybe a few weeks ago, you saw something getting shared from a book, and I don't know the book or the author, but, it was one of these things where a man was writing about a woman, and you can do this as a man and write about a woman. It happens all the time, and you can do a good job of it. Or you could write something that's so far-fetched that, women are going to be like, what in the hell is this? And usually when you do something like this, it's, not just a failure on the writer's part, but a failure on whoever's doing the editing. And if you're self-publishing something and not doing editing, or at least not having people from different backgrounds, if you're a man writing a woman's character, not having any women read your books, it might show. And in this case, what it was is, I guess it was, I don't know if it was like a mystery or thriller novel or what, but it was in some case an autopsy was being done on, I guess, like an unidentified woman. But how they were able to identify her was that during the autopsy, they found in her vagina, of all places, her ID and money and, I don't know, like lip balm or something like that. It was like she was basically, using her vagina as a, storage compartment, a small purse sort of thing. And just FYI, women don't do this. This would be very uncomfortable. And, if you're a man wondering if a woman would put something, in her vagina other than like, say a tampon, the chances are, very, very small that this would happen and walk around like this. I mean, if, well, anyway. It's just, it was a weird thing, and, this could have been prevented had this, writer had a woman read his manuscript beforehand, or, had he even, like, put some feelers out there on, social media or something to say, like, hey, does this sound believable to you? Because he would have, I think, gotten an answer very quickly. Instead, it got published in a book, and so people had some interesting comments to say on that. But in its own way, this is very similar to, the writer who said, if you're doing something to pay the bills versus, writing, then you're not a real writer, kind of thing. It's just people that are coming at things from their own perspective, and that's fine. Like, we're all allowed to have our own perspective, but then assuming that your experience matches everyone else's experience, which, if you've spent any time out there in the world, this isn't true. And, like, you would probably know it's not true for other things, but then to think that it's true for your career or profession is kind of weird. And it might sound like I spend a lot of time on Twitter, but a few weeks ago there was somebody, this has nothing to do with writing, well, slightly now, it has nothing to do with writing, but she was talking about tea, and I guess like she had either like a multi-pack of like different flavor tea bags, or I don't know, she was like somewhere at like a, you know, like a restaurant or hotel or something where they had a variety of like tea bags available. And her comment, she's apparently not a fan of Earl Grey tea, which is fine, you know, everybody has their preferences, but her comment was like, you know, does anybody ever, you know, use the Earl Grey tea that comes in the variety pack or something like that? And of course, you know, Twitter responded, because, you know, it's Earl Grey is out there in probably every variety pack because it is a very popular kind of tea. And, you know, I personally consume large quantities of it on a weekly basis. So, yeah, and I'm not alone in that, because obviously it's a very, you know, popular kind of tea. Of course, not everyone's going to like it, but, you know, it exists because there are people that like it. And, you know, most flavors of anything, like you might look at, like, I don't know, they have some crazy flavored potato chips nowadays, and you might be like, well, who even likes, you know, dill pickle flavored potato chips? There are some people who can't imagine why somebody would eat salt and vinegar flavored potato chips. Like my boyfriend thinks that's gross, and, you know, I think those are pretty much like the best flavored potato chips there are. So everybody has like different tastes, obviously, and, you know, to assume that because like you don't like salt and vinegar potato chips then nobody else would is kind of ridiculous. I mean, obviously if they make them, there are people that like them, and so, you know, Earl Grey tea is a popular kind of tea. You might not like it, but to just assume like, does anybody drink this stuff? Why do they even put it in a variety pack? It's kind of a weird comment to make, and it just shows like sometimes people don't really think beyond like their own limited experience with things, and it's well, thinking beyond your own limited experience of things is probably a good skill to have if you're going to be a writer. Doesn't mean you can't be a writer if you don't have this skill, but it is something to think about. And, you know, anytime you're creating characters or, you know, working on a book, it's not a bad idea to, you know, not necessarily get out there and experience things, but you have a wealth of information at your hands with the internet. And, you know, if you're not sure about something, if you're kind of like, you know, would this be a thing? I mean, obviously Google is your friend, but also, you know, it's not a bad idea to post stuff on social media and just ask, you know, for people's opinions and, you know, thoughts on something, because chances are if you ask, you know, people's opinion or, you know, like what their favorite this is, you're going to get like, you know, a whole bunch of different responses, and they're going to contradict each other. In fact, again, I saw something, I think this was also on Twitter, somebody was talking about, you know, some author that she likes to read or whatever, and she noticed that like multiple characters in her books, they were always wearing, what do you call it, like strapless bras, which to me personally is like the most useless, uncomfortable garment ever. I mean, like, I don't even know why these things exist. Like, I guess there was a time when, you know, I guess if you're wearing like a fancy dress, you don't really want to show bra straps. Okay, I can understand that. But at the same time, like, to me, like, a strapless bra is not the solution, because all that's going to do is you got this stupid thing that's uncomfortable and sliding all over the place and is not giving you any support anyway. And so, you know, a whole bunch of people commented on her post, and it was basically like 50-50 between people who love strapless bras and people who hated them. And so it's just interesting that, like, you know, anything, I guess, out there, well, maybe not anything, but, you know, there's people that come from different backgrounds and have different experiences, and, you know, anyway, you know, just to assume, like, you know, I would assume, oh, no woman likes a strapless bra, but then you see something like that, and there are women who actually like these things, and they're not just, like, flat-chested women. Like, there were some, you know, women who were, you know, a good, decent-sized woman who, like, really actually liked strapless bras and felt that they were good. So, you know, anyway, to each his own, I guess, to each her own. But I did get a little off track there, and I just, you know, it's been a weird week for me. It's been a weird few weeks. Everything's been a little bit discombobulated and topsy-turvy, and I haven't really been working as much on writing stuff because of that, because of these different changes in my schedule. So, I'm feeling, I don't want to say I'm feeling out of sorts. That's not quite true, but, I'm feeling a little bit off my game. And, I am looking forward to the fact that I have some time today to work on writing stuff, because I really haven't had that lately. So I am looking forward to getting some work done today. But also, it's my, shout out of commiseration for anyone else who's kind of in the same situation as me, or, not necessarily the same, but a situation where, you don't have the time to do the writing, or you're just not feeling it, which happens too. Sometimes you're just not in that mindset, and it's okay to take a break from writing. I mean, I think it's healthy to take a break from, writing or anything, and just recharge. And sometimes that can actually, help you. It's like, well, you think like taking a time off or something like that, you're skipping out on all this work, you're not gonna be able to get as much done. But on the other hand, when you come back from this break, you might have new energy and might get a lot more work done, just because you've, taken this time to recharge and refresh yourself. So that is, I think, an important part of, of anything. Not just writing, like anything you do. It's a good idea, because it just, it's useful. It's helpful to just, take breaks and, recharge yourself, and, when you need to. Obviously, you don't have to do it all the time. And of course, you have to do what works for you, which is always what you have to do in anything that you do. And, anyone that gives you advice that's like, this is the way it has to be, is probably wrong, because there's just so many different ways, and people are so different, and, everybody has their own experience and what works for them. But that's really all that's, been going on for me, I would say writing-wise, but really writing-wise, not much has been going on over the past week. I've been... not book-wise, not writing-wise, but thinking about marketing for some different things that I do, for some other things that I do. And it does, that being in that mindset, the marketing mindset, does make me think, about writing, about producing books, because I think it gets ignored a lot when we talk about, books and producing books. Like, that's only part of the game. And marketing, and this is whether you're self-publishing or traditionally publishing, marketing is a huge part of it. And I think we tend to think like the producing the content is the important thing, and that whole kind of like field of dreams mentality, like build it and they will come kind of thing. That doesn't really apply. That doesn't. I mean. Yeah, I don't think that's realistic, and I don't see too many examples in the real world of cases where somebody has just, put something out there and people have magically found it. Usually when you read stories like that, there's actually, whether you realize it or not, there's a lot of marketing that's gone into people finding something and it becoming popular. And, there's all different ways to market things, maybe not the traditional marketing methods that were used, but yeah. So that's something I think we do need to focus on as writers and creators of all sorts. It's not just producing the material, which is, to me, that's more the fun part, right? The creative stuff is, creating stuff, and, whether it's, creating books or creating artwork or whatever you're creating, that is like the fun part of it. But there is also the other part, the business part of it, which, some people might think of that as fun too, but it's a different sort of experience, definitely. And that is figuring out a way to find your customers and let them know about your product. And that is something I do struggle with, I guess. I haven't really come up with a formula yet that works. Definitely, for the books, I have not found that yet. And, this is why I'm working on a 3-book series, because I have some ideas, marketing ideas with that, and to see if I could figure out, a way to drive sales, having like 3 connected books and, kind of like promoting the first one really as like almost a loss leader and getting, earning the money on the second and third books in the trilogy. So will that work for me? I don't know. I haven't tried that yet. But that is the reason that I'm working on a 3-book series. So, that's one aspect of it. And it's just, also finding, in the case of books, finding the people that are most likely going to read it. I do think that's a challenge. I mean, books, I think, are a little bit easier to market than some of the products out there because, depending on what sort of book you write, you could pretty easily find genre-wise, like, authors that kind of match up with you, not necessarily finding them, through like targeted ads, like Facebook ads. I've played around with it some, and some of the authors that, I would want to target don't have a big enough following on Facebook for me to like target them with Facebook ads, so I got to go for like bigger name authors who maybe aren't as closely matched to the books that I write, but are in the same genre kind of thing. But yeah, like with books, at least you can kind of, I think, find if somebody is a fan of, whatever, Nora Roberts, then they're going to like your book or something kind of thing, most likely, and so there is a little bit, I think, an easier aspect that way with books, although it can be tough, I think, to, really zero in on your ideal reader, certainly at the beginning. I think once you're actually more established and have like, a readership, I think, with like lookalike audiences and stuff, it could be a little bit easier, I think, to target readers and, get higher performing ads type of things. But yeah, that's just me rambling. That's just some thoughts because obviously right now I'm not doing any marketing and I'm just really thinking about things and, trying to figure out things that'll work as far as finding the right readers to, that are going to buy my books and, buy my first book and, then buy subsequent books as well so that I can make some money. So yeah, that's just Alyssa rambling, but she doesn't have time to ramble because she has some work to get done today. She has to get some writing done because today is her writing day, and then she has to get all the running around and car stuff done tomorrow. So she is going to sign off from this episode of Awkward Author, and no, I'll be catching up with you again next week. As I said, I put out Awkward Author every week. It's available as both a podcast and a video on YouTube. If you would like to know more about me, you can visit my website, which is alyssagrosso.com. That's ALISSAGROSSO.com. And so in the meantime, I hope you all have a great week. If you're in the US, I hope you have a happy and relaxing Labor Day weekend. It's kind of the end of the summer here. Things are winding down. Kids are going back to school, all that good stuff. And at least today, the weather has turned a little bit cooler here. So anyway, yes, have a great week. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you and talk to you all again next week.